Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something really fundamental.
Yeah, we're looking at what some ancient wisdom identifies as, well, a major roadblock.
A roadblock to inner peace, to real understanding. We're going to try and dissect this core obstacle that, lives within us.
And we're using insights from Acharya Agnivrat's interpretations of the Bhagavad Gita, specifically excerpts from 2 talks on YouTube.
Right. The first is called Out 28 Leto Filshin, Kamkampasadata, basically saying Kāma is humanity's greatest enemy.
And the second is Talo at 29 Light Low Prako, which translates to How to Conquer Kāma, both from the Acharya Agnivrat channel.
So think of this as maybe a shortcut for you, the listener, to grasp some pretty profound ideas about overcoming these inner struggle.
Definitely. We should start where the first source does, with this really powerful idea.
Which is?
That Kāma, often translated as desire, maybe even intense longing or lust, is presented as humanity's greatest enemy.
Greatest enemy. That's strong.
It is. And what's immediately striking is how they illustrate this. The source uses these analogies that really stick with you.
Like what?
Well, it says Kāma is like smoke clouding a fire,
Okay.
or dust that's covering a mirror, or even the placenta concealing an unborn child.
So in every case, something vital is hidden, obscured.
Exactly.
Ah.
So the insight here isn't just that Kāma is a fleeting feeling. It's like a fundamental obstruction, a barrier to our inner clarity.
Right, like those physical examples, it clouds things.
And because of that obscuring effect, the source says even people who have knowledge, who are wise, can end up acting foolishly when they're, overcome by it.
That makes sense. And the consequences sound serious. It mentions that when someone is consumed by Kāma, their aikani viveka, their discernment, their ability to tell right from wrong gets eroded.
Yeah, it gets destroyed is the word used.
Yeah.
Leading to a loss of shame, a loss of fear.
It paints a pretty stark picture how deeply this inner thing can mess with our judgment, our actions.
And as we dig a bit deeper, this idea of Kāma being like an insatiable fire comes up. The term used is burgnik.
Insatiable fire, so it just keeps burning.
Apparently so. And it's really important to grasp that this isn't just about, say, sexual desire, that's included, but it's broader.
Okay, so what else?
It's also this powerful craving for wealth, for status, possessions. That's a relentless desire for more in the material sense.
And the key point is that it's insatiable.
That's crucial. It's never satisfied. Giving in doesn't quench it. Actually, it seems to just fuel it more.
Huh? That makes you think about, well, our modern world, doesn't it? Our obsession with freedom that...
The source draws that connection, yeah?
Yeah.
It suggests we often mistake freedom for license, like had meaning, like a kind of anything goes, no holds barred pursuit of whatever I want.
Right. And if everyone just acts based on those unchecked desires, that Kāma...
Then it inevitably breeds chaos, conflict. Not just inside us, but, between people, between nations, even globally.
Like a ripple effect of just wanting.
Precisely. And this insatiable nature, combined with maybe misunderstanding what real freedom is,
leads to fragmentation.
Yeah, breaking apart what was ideally seen as one global family. To combine it, the whole world is one family.
But the source says nations were originally for order, for...
Right, for structure and good management, not as a reason for hostility and division driven by this Kāma, and also ariloba, which is greed.
Okay, here's a paradox then. We've come so far technologically.
Massively.
Space travel, AI, instant communication, all this progress. Yet the source claims the world is still shrouded in ajna, ignorance.
It does. And the logic is quite direct. True knowledge should lead to happiness and canon.
Whereas ignorance, ajna, leads to suffering.
For me. So the point highlighted is that technological advancement by itself doesn't equal inner wisdom or well-being.
It doesn't automatically bring that happiness.
Apparently not. True knowledge, the way it's described here, fundamentally changes your inner state, leading to lasting happiness. External achievements often don't deliver that.
The examples given really drive this home.
They're very practical. Like, if food doesn't satisfy your hunger, it's like poison.
Okay.
If a blanket doesn't keep you warm when it's cold, it's useless.
Right.
If medicine doesn't cure your illness, what's the point?
So the parallel is science and tech that don't bring real peace and well-being
are not fulfilling their highest purpose. They're not true science in that deeper sense.
This connects to Rishi Dayanand's definitions, doesn't it?
Yes, it brings those in, defining Plotinus science as that which benefits all.
Not just some.
All. And that Vijji true knowledge as understanding reality as it truly is, and then using that understanding for the good of yourself and others.
And the critique is that much of our current science is maybe too narrow.
Driven by individual desires, sensory pleasures fueled by Kāma, which ironically ends up increasing unrest and unhappiness.
We can sort of see the results, can't we? The source mentions things like pollution, climate change.
Natural disasters, yeah. These could be seen as maybe unintended consequences of development guided by those unchecked desires, rather than a holistic view of what benefits everyone.
It offers a really interesting contrast, too. Imagine someone very wealthy, but they're always sick, always anxious, versus someone living simply, maybe close to nature, healthy, and just content. It forces you to ask, what is happiness, really?
The first person, despite all the conveniences, might be way less happy than the second, who isn't caught in that same cycle of insatiable desire.
We see that play out all the time, people chasing the next thing, thinking that will be it.
But often finding just more wanting, more yearning.
So ultimately, this first part of our dive really hammers home that Kāma acts like a veil.
Yeah, it stops us thinking clearly about what truly matters.
Which leads to actions rooted in that ignorance, ajnan, and then the breakdown of harmony within families, communities, globally.
Right, so okay, we've established the problem, this pervasive impact of uncontrolled desire. The big question then is,
where does this enemy actually live inside us, and how do we even start to tackle it?
Exactly, and that leads us perfectly into the second source, which gets into the how-to.
Okay, so how do we conquer Kāma?
Well, the first key idea is its pujatha, its dwelling place, its abode.
Where does it hang out?
The text identifies 3 places. The abardhan play, indriyani, which are our senses.
Sight, sound, taste, etc.
Yep. Then the dimanas, our mind.
Thoughts, feelings.
Right. And the ultimaturi, our intellect or reason.
Senses, mind, intellect, that covers a lot.
It does. Kāma resides in these, and from there it deludes the jiva, the individual soul, our true self, obscuring its innate knowledge.
How does that delusion happen? Is there a process?
There seems to be a kind of cascade.
Yeah.
Kāma first clouds the kalifata, the intellect.
Okay, the reasoning faculty.
Which then misdirects the mind.
So the thoughts and emotions get skewed.
Leading the abodhi, the senses, astray. And the end result is the delusion of the jivapara.
Wow. So even smart people, people with strong intellects, can lose their way, lose that tamjan if Kāma gets a foothold in the buddhi first.
That's exactly the implication.
There's that analogy from the Kathapanishad, right, that helps picture this.
It's a classic. The Kāma, the soul, is the passenger in a chariot.
Okay.
The mind is the reins.
Controlling.
The senses, which are the horses.
Wild horses, maybe?
Well, they can be. And the intellect is the charioteer.
Driving the whole thing.
Exactly. So if the horses, the senses are wild and unruly, influenced by Kāma,
yeah,
and the reins, the mind are weak, and the charioteer, the intellect, is impaired or drunk on Kāma.
then the whole chariot, our whole being, is going off the road. Disaster.
Pretty much. Kāma is described as being like a stimulant that makes both the horses and the charioteer unsteady.
Okay, that's a vivid picture. So faced with this runaway chariot, what's the first step? How do we start getting control back?
The text is very clear. The first step to conquer Kāma, this destroyer of Kāma, Gyan knowledge and the Gyan wisdom, is to control the horses first.
Control the horses first.
Get a grip on the senses. It emphasizes the need for consistent, dedicated effort.
Through what kind of practices?
Things like Purchara practice,
Yeah.
Purchara practice, yoga practice, motion, meditation.
Okay, familiar paths.
Also, as a gani, pure sattvic food is mentioned.
Diet matters.
And virtuous study, plus wholesome sensory intake, generally what you listen to, what you watch, all of that needs to be pure to help gain mastery over the buddhi, manas, and indriya.
It's interesting you mentioned sensory intake. The term ahar comes up, right? And it means more than just food.
Absolutely. Ahar, intake, covers everything the senses, grahan, or receive. Not just food for the mouth, but sights for the eyes, sounds for the ears.
The whole sensory diet needs to be clean, sattvic.
That's the idea. A holistic approach to what you allow into your consciousness.
So control the senses first, but there's that hierarchy you mentioned.
Right, the chariot analogy helps here too. Indriya, the senses, are the horses. The manas, mind, is superior to them, like the reins.
Okay.
The buddhi, intellect, is superior to the mind, like the charioteer.
And the atma, the soul.
is superior even to the buddhi. It's the passenger, the true self.
So if the intellect is higher than the mind and senses, shouldn't we focus there first?
That's exactly the strategy outlined. While controlling the senses is the initial action, the crucial focus must be on purifying the tanada, the intellect.
Purifying the charioteer, how do we do that?
The source suggests specific methods, studying the Vedas and other sacred texts, but with real understanding, not just rote learning.
Getting the meaning.
Yes. And, importantly, chanting mantras like the Gayatri mantra, but doing it with both the meaning and even the bhavana, the feeling, the inner resonance.
So just reciting the words isn't enough?
Apparently not. The feeling, the connection, the comprehension that's vital for the purification process.
It's like knowing intellectually that fire burns is one thing.
But actually feeling the heat or the pain if you touch it is another.
Exactly. There's that analogy in a thorn, right?
Yes. Knowing a thorn prick hurts is different from the feeling of the pain. Similarly, understanding the meaning of a mantra should evoke the corresponding feeling.
So when chanting Gayatri, which asks for guidance for the intellect,
you should consciously feel that aspiration, consciously try to restrain your mind from wandering, and actively direct it toward virtue. It's an active process.
that makes sense.
It's not passive.
And it also stresses purusha self-effort.
Meaning you have to put in the work yourself. Prayer is good, asking God for strength is mentioned, but you also have to actively do the controlling of the senses and mind. It's not just going to happen.
So prayer plus personal effort.
Hand in hand. It also suggests that really experiencing the protective and omnipresent nature of Om during chanting, again with that deep feeling and understanding,
Can help shield you.
can prevent these karina, these impurities like Kāma, from taking hold. But again, it hinges on that genuine feeling and understanding.
Okay, so it really is sequential then. Purify the buddhi first.
Before the manas is mind.
And the mind before the indriya, the senses.
Correct. Without pure senses achieved through purifying the higher faculties first, you can't really be free from Kāma.
And what's the final step? After the buddhi is purified.
The final, maybe most profound step is knowing the whole Kāma, the soul itself,
Yeah.
which is superior even to that purified intellect.
And how is the Atma known? Through the intellect.
The text says it's known through itself, Atman. Atman, Atmana. Not primarily through the intellect, though the pure intellect prepares the way. It's a deeper realization.
And this is where we understand both our own soul, the jivatma.
And the supreme soul, Paramatma, yes.
Mm.
Both are realized through the Atma, but only once the buddhi, manas, and indriya are sufficiently purified.
So when that realization happens,
The conclusion is that all these inner enemies, like Kāma, are just automatically eliminated, neutralized. Your
Yeah.
inner being becomes pure.
wow. Okay, so wrapping up our deep dive into these interpretations, the big takeaway seems to be that Kāma, this uncontrolled desire, is a huge obstacle.
A major one, yeah. To true knowledge, genuine happiness. But, and this is crucial, it's not invincible.
There's a path to overcome it.
A clear path. Diligently, consistently working to purify the senses, the mind, and especially the intellect.
Which ultimately leads toward self-realization, that inner peace we started with.
Exactly. And I think the crucial point isn't just nodding along intellectually with these ideas.
It's applying them.
It's really understanding the principles and, more importantly, actively trying to integrate them into your daily life. That's where the real change happens, right?
Absolutely. So that leaves us with something for you, the listener, to maybe ponder.
A final thought.
Yeah. In a world that's often so focused on external achievements, on getting the next thing, on sensory gratification, how might consciously engaging with our inner desires, this Kāma,
Trying to understand and manage it.
how might that lead us towards a more, I don't know, profoundly fulfilling and serene existence, not just for us as individuals?
But maybe collectively, too, for the world around us.
It's definitely a thought worth holding on to. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.